Hey everyone, it's Root Beer. As promised, I'm going to be doing the roundups every week until we're done with Lyrical Monasterio reveals. This week we got Altestiel's ride line, and then it was a holiday in Japan, so there's not a whole lot to talk about, so let's just get into it. First we have Indecisive Sky Altestiel, so grade 1, 8k. When it's placed on Vanguard Circle, bind the top card of your deck. White Wing ability, continuous. When you would ride from your ride deck, you can Soul Blast 1 instead of discarding a card. Black Wing effect, continuous. All your opponent's grade 1 or less rear guards cannot attack this unit. White Wing is active when your bind only has odd grade, and Black Wing when it only has even grades. So, I feel like you just want the White Wing ability most of the time. I can't think of a ton of situations where you're being grade 1 rushed, and then, especially if you're going second, your opponent can just call grade 2, so, not starting off on a great foot with this whole, Black Wing, White Wing, choose your ability when one of your abilities is just useless half the time, right? Next we have Shining As Is Altestiel, so it is the grade 2 when it's placed on Vanguard Circle. Choose a card from your bind zone, put it to the bottom of your deck. If you put a card, bind the top card of your deck face up. White Wing, act once per turn, counterblast 1, it gets crit +1 until end of turn, and then Black Wing is continuous. When during the battle of this unit attack, your opponent can't call trigger units from hand to guard circle. So, again, I feel like the White Wing ability is probably going to be more useful a lot of the time, just because that early crit pressure is probably just going to mean a lot more, especially if you can get a booster and kind of discourage your opponent from trying to guard. The Black Wing ability kind of has the downside where if they weren't planning to guard it anyways, then it's just like you got the hit in, but you're not really putting any pressure on your opponent. You kind of need to have other rear guards that you're able to call and rush early with for Black Wings to really matter. So again, I feel like most general situations, you could probably make the White Wing like an actual decision for your opponent, whether they want to guard that or just take the early crit. Whereas Black Wings, I feel like at least some of the time your opponent's just not going to care. It's not going to be as much of a decision for them. And then finally, we have Archangel of Twin Wings Altestiel. So auto at the beginning of your main phase, choose a card from bind zone, put it in your hand. If you put a card in your hand, bind the top card of your deck face up. White Wing, continuous. During your turn, it gets power plus 5,000 and critical plus 1. Black Wing, continuous. All of your opponent's unit gets power minus 5,000. So, I feel like in this case, you want White Wing early, maybe when you first ride grade 3, to have that crit pressure where your opponent isn't set up yet, maybe doesn't have a perfect guard, and then you have the potential to be able to, really put a lot of pressure on them with the crit. But then, after they're at 4 or more damage and they're likely to PG your Vanguard anyways, I feel like that's when you end up wanting Black Wings. So, kind of the problem right now with Altestiel on her own is just you have no control over which one you will have at any given time. And so you may not be able to put the pressure you want on your opponent when you need it. And then also just 5k power increments isn't great. I feel like you probably want 10k in a lot of cases, so you're still not getting good enough numbers with just that by itself. So yeah, overall, I feel like Altestiel, at least the ride line, is pretty mediocre to bad. It's an interesting mechanic, certainly, but the actual effects that you get from the mechanic is just not that great. We also had some Shaman King reveals, but I honestly don't care. So moving on, we have Blue-Haired Genius Lysius. So another grade 1 3k. When placed on rearguard circle, choose another unit, gets plus 10k. So, this is probably going into Kyrie, where you're going to have things that already gain a decent amount of power. So you have the grade 3 10k that gets 10k on place. You have the grade 2 where when it's boosted, it gets another 5k. So that's 18, and then if you give that the 10k, that makes 28. So its power at base is weak, but then the plus 10k is enough to mitigate that, especially if you have the Whale Order as well. Pretty decent card. Still need to see other ways of resetting more than just the 2 cards with Kyrie's, so that we can more effectively use all of these on place, but, we'll see where this goes. Next up, we have Rainbow Wings Lmul, which is a grade 1 8k, White Wing Auto. When placed on rearguard circle, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can counterblast 1, choose one of your rearguards for every 3 of your odd grade units, and they get power plus 5000 and critical plus 1. You can't choose the same unit twice. So, this is pretty interesting. It's a White Wing rearguard, so it combos with Altestiel's ability to gain a crit. As far as the stipulation goes, you're probably only going to get the 1 a lot of the time. Like, you can only get 2 maximum anyways with 6 rearguard circles, but, your Vanguard counts as 1 odd grade unit, she herself is a second, so you really just need, like, another grade 1 or a grade 3 rearguard to get the 5k and a crit on something. 5k is not the greatest number, but because your Vanguard also is gaining 5k and a crit while you're on White Wings, I think the 2 of that together could be enough that your opponent might not be able to guard all of it, and especially if you manage to get a full board of odd grade units, 3 columns with 5k and a crit could be enough that your opponent just has to take something. And then we have Second Coming Shady. It's a grade 2 8k, so it has 2 abilities. The first one is Act Rearguard Circle, Counterblast 1, put it into your soul. Draw a card, choose a card in your bind zone, and it gets grade plus 1 until end of turn. And then it also has a Blackwing continuous skill. Cannot be chosen by opponent's card effect, can't be attacked by your opponent's rearguards. This is pretty neat. The act ability is much needed for Altestiel to be able to actually choose which ability it gets. So I think this is going to be an essential card just because you have control over which wing you are going to be using. And then the Blackwing ability, where it can't be targeted by card effects and can't be attacked by rearguard, pretty good. Can stop things like Leonard and Prison. Still dies to Overlord, but can't win them all. Pretty decent rearguard, probably going to be a staple in Altestiel decks just because of being able to add a grade to your bind zone card. Finally, we have Flying Away Shellull. So, grade 2 10k, Blackwing. When this unit attacks, you can counterblast 1, soul charge 1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards, and that unit cannot stand during their next stand phase. Paralyzing, the best mechanic in Vanguard. Oh boy. This is pretty mediocre. The deck is already looking to be kinda counterblast heavy. I don't think this makes the cut. And that is it for all of the reveals that I care to cover. Altestiel is looking pretty mediocre, to be honest. The mechanic itself is interesting, but, it does have its problems. Like I said, being able to control which wing you're actually on is a problem. We sort of have a solution with Shady, but then you still have to actually draw that, and then the other problem I'm seeing is that we're having rearguards that have each wing for their abilities, so the Black Wings seem to be more utility-focused abilities, and then White Wings are the more offensive ones, so building your deck to balance between the 2 wings is another problem I foresee in the deck. And that should be everything I have to say this week. Thank you for watching, everybody. If you liked, leave a like. Comment, what do you think about all of these Black and White Wing cards? Do you think it's an interesting mechanic? Do you think what we've seen so far is good enough to carry the deck? What else do you want to see out of the Black and White Wing abilities? What else could they potentially add to the deck? Let us know in the comments. Thank you to our $10 patrons, Darren, Cole, and Josh. If you want to support us, it's patreon.com/nexusatnight. $5 gets you a whole-ass bonus show, $10 gets you a shout-out like I did just now, and early access to non-news videos like deck profiles and unboxings and all of that good stuff. Thank you again for watching. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.